Welcome everyone. My name is Marietta Balázs. I'm a Youth Project Officer at the EU Council of Europe Youth Partnership, and it's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the EU Council of Europe Youth Partnership team on the very first webinar in the webinar series of the massive open online course on essentials of youth work. This course aims to spread more knowledge about what is youth work and what are the social values of youth work, and at the same time to show good practices and youth policy developments in Europe to not just European youth workers or people who are interested in youth work, but also beyond. Today we are here with the team who is behind the MOOC and also with our two experts, and soon I will give them the floor. Just one more thing about the Youth Partnership. In case you don't know or are not familiar with our work, we are a partnership between the European Commission and the Council of Europe, and we work on the topics of youth work, and we are also contributing to the development and the realization of the European Youth Work Agenda. I will share in the chat with you our social media links, so please follow us and join us in different projects. And also just to note on regards of social media that we are also live on Facebook, and you can interact with us and with the speakers through Facebook in the comments. We are going to monitor that continuously, or you can also find the link in the post and join the Zoom directly. So thank you very much. Welcome once again from my side. And now I give the floor to Katja for the introduction of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marietta. Hello and welcome to our first webinar. This is the first webinar, as Marietta told, in frame of our MOOC on the essentials of youth work. And the topic of today's webinar is outreach and open youth work. Together with me, here our colleagues, it's facilitators of the MOOC, Snezhana and Darek. Also today we have our graphic recorder, Oladja. She will be keeping track and keeping on make the recording of our webinar. So at the end we have beautiful outcomes. And also today I'm pleased to invite you. We have two our experts. We have Cosmin Catană from Romania. Hi, Cosmin. And also we have Thomas McCarthy from Ireland, Dublin. So why this webinar and what we are going to do here today? This webinar is the part of the third module of our MOOC. Yes, it's second week and we're already on the third module. It's about the youth work environment. And in this module, we're talking about everything that is connected to youth work environment, like who is who in youth work, what are the spaces where youth work happened, what are the types of youth work, what are the quality and standards in youth work. So all these topics are covered in this model, and we were thinking in the team that it will be very important to look deeper on the topic on how we can reach those young people that maybe sometimes are not so easy to reach in our youth work, or they're not really so much covered, and what are the spaces where youth work can happen, like some special spaces, like today we will talk about the street youth work. And for this, the idea was to invite really practitioners who do it every day, who do outreach every day, and who do this open youth work every day. So that's why we have today with us Cosmin and Thomas. Just a little bit about the structure of the webinar before we start with the presentations. First, we will have two presentations, so Cosmin and then Thomas. And during the presentations, if you have a question, for you, there is a special section you can see on your screen if you are in Zoom, which calls questions and answers. So please, if you have a question, just write it there, because after presentations, Darek will start with the questions. So he will ask questions from this section with the questions and answers. If you are looking live stream, if you are watching live stream, you're also welcome to ask the questions. You just ask them in Facebook under this stream, and then Marietta also will help these questions to appear here in our Zoom webinar so that presenters can answer them. It was already questions. Yes, this is a webinar, so unfortunately your cameras and microphones are off. So the only way to ask questions is to write them. So about the questions, if you have some comments or if you don't understand what's going on, you can ask in the chat, and one of us, one from the team, will answer you in the chat. Okay, so if there are some technical questions, you can ask them in the chat. If there are questions about the content, questions to our presenters, you ask them in the Q&A section, and then we will pass these questions to our presenters. So I think that for a moment, everything is set, and we can start with our first expert. And it's my pleasure to present you Cosmin Catană from Romania, 140 kilometers from Budapest. He is a youth worker and youth trainer in the Curba de Cultură organization, yes, and you are work a lot with the rural youth, but I will give you floor so you can present yourself better. And yes, you will have around 20-25 minutes for your presentation, and yeah, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Katya, for the introduction, and hello, everybody. I am Cosmin. I am coming from Romania. I'm coming from a small village north of Bucharest, and that's where a few years ago we started working with providing opportunities for rural young people. I've been involved in the youth sector starting in 1999, and been involved in various institutions, NGOs, and other organizations, as also in various forms of youth work. Today, I'm going to be talking about what we started in the village of Izvoarele in 2012, and that is the Curba de Cultură Youth Center. For this, we have prepared some slides for you, and we are calling it youth work in rural Romania. That is because it needs to be really, really obvious that we are operating in a rural environment in Romania. We have, I've been telling you that we started in 2012 in the village of Izvoarele, and that's because we have some figures here. According to the law in Romania, young people are considered young people if they are between 14 and 35 years old. According to this age, the statistics say that there's over 5 million young people in the country, and more than 46% live in rural areas. For all these young people, there are 36 youth centers, out of which 5 are in rural areas. And if we're going to do the math, that's going to be about 500,000 young people per youth center in rural areas. So one of the reasons why we started working in the village of Izvoarele was the need. There was the need for activities, for youth work activities in the villages of Romania. This is how Romania looks like on Google Maps, in case you haven't checked it in a while. And where you see the red dot, that is where we are working. It is 120 kilometers north of Bucharest and about 72 kilometers southeast of Brașov. What's really cool about the place is that life is going there as natural and as fluent as possible. And there is this feeling of the traditional natural life in the village. After our communities, there's another community north of us. on the way to Brașov, there's just 70 kilometers of mountains and forests. And that makes it a really, really nice scenario and environment to work in. If you're wondering how rural Romania looks like, and we've been joking a little bit on this topic a little bit earlier, we do have a very, very short teaser that was done by international volunteers in one of our projects. And this is just to show you how our community looks like during summer. And for that, I invite you to turn your speakers on and watch the video. This was Romania in summer. This is our community during summer, and probably you've seen there all the things that rural life means to us. We get to see, as I was telling Thomas earlier, we get to see cows and horses almost every day on the roads, and occasionally we get to see the sheep and the goats here and there. And this is just the reality in which we're working. But we're not here to talk about the area and the cows and the sheep. We are here to share with you our way of working with young people, which is, in our opinion, the open type of youth work. We are always inviting young people to take part in the activities and not telling young people to take part in the activities. We are always asking what they would like to do, and we are not making assumptions with regard to what we think that they would like to do. We have in the youth centers that we are the physical youth centers that we are running, we have at least 2 trained adults that are ready to take on newcomers, to show them around, to introduce them into the life of the youth center, explain about activities and rules and procedures, and if they are underage, provide them with a declaration for the parents that they accept that the youngsters are participating in the activities of the youth center. And because we have been asking them what they would like to do and how they would like to have the activities delivered to them in the youth centers, our program, our working schedule is from Tuesday to Saturday, which is a little bit non-typical. And that is because Monday to Friday, people have to go to school or to work or to university. And they were asking to have one more day. Can we have on Saturday? Could we come on Saturday? And usually we were just opening on Saturday for them to be able to come and join the youth center and just be there. And after a while, we saw that this is actually required, and we just moved the official schedule of the youth centers to start not on Monday, but on Tuesday. So people have started to call us some sort of a museum because we're closed on Mondays. We have various resources available to the youngsters and to the trained adults. And we are calling them trained adults and not youth workers. Because let's just put it this way, there are no bachelor degrees on youth work in Romania at this point, and we would not like to upset anyone. So we do have trained adults that are working with young people, and there are plenty of resources available in the two youth centers. And the two youth centers used to be only one, until last year, when with the help of the nearby municipality of Teișani and with the help of a lot of international volunteers, we have recovered and renovated the space that used to be a kindergarten, and we turned it into the second youth center in the area. That's a totally different story, yet an amazing story anyway. And this way of us doing our work implies asking young people what they want to do, as I was saying earlier. But at least once a year, we are doing this in an organized fashion. We are doing a research, like a scientifically led sociological research on the needs, wants, and feels of young people. And that usually we're doing this in late autumn or early winter, just to prepare for the next deadlines that are coming, so that we're preparing the future projects. And for this, for us, this thing is extremely important, preparing the next projects, because we are a project-led organization. We are a fully private, fully independent organization, which also means that there is little to no support from central, regional, or local governments. So all our work is based on projects, and our projects are based on the interviews and research that we are doing with young people at least once a year. This is the first youth center that we started with, and this is also one of the most typical images that you would see when coming to the youth center. It's a board game thingy. Our place became famous in the local community for board games and for the opportunity of young people to gather and socialize, and in the same time playing some board games. This is the new youth center that we have opened last year, and that we have actually opened for the public about 10 days ago, because the local conditions in Romania and the pandemic allow us to do that. This is the space that we have renovated last year, and it's, let's just put it this way, a little bit more technological than the other one. So young people that want to try out video editing, sound editing, that would like to learn how to play instruments, that can come here and use the resources that are available for them with the support of our trained adults. How do we get to the young people that we want to get to, that we want to spread the word to? We're working a lot with international volunteers, as I was saying, and we are doing plenty of activities in local schools and high schools. Either activities within the program, the school program, or after the school program, and reminding young people or letting them know that the youth centers exist and that they can access everything that's happening in the youth center. We are participating in all sorts of local events. And that is because people need to know that we exist. People need to know that youth activities are available for them, and youngsters can come and be part of youth activities in a safe and secure environment. And in the same time, we're organizing public events. We're organizing local events in which we are inviting both young people and adults and their parents and authorities, so that they get the idea and the spirit of the stuff that we are doing there in the villages of Izvoarele, Teișani, and the surroundings. And one of the main things is establishing and keeping a public presence. We are doing all sorts of public things, not just events, like public consultations in a very counterintuitive way, asking locals how they would like to do this, how they would like to do that. And in this way, the young people that are contributing to these researches, to this events, they are making it public that they are doing stuff for the community and that other young people can join and do the same. Young people are facing various challenges generally. Young people in rural areas are facing all the general challenges plus some specific ones. And these are transportation challenges because rural communities in Romania are kind of scattered over valleys and hills, and public transport is not always available, or if it is available, it might pose an economic challenge in this case, because young people, most of the young people that we are working with are facing economic challenges. For instance, we were asking a few years ago, one of our youngsters, why did he stop coming at the youth center after a week? And he said that he simply cannot afford to pay for transport every day, twice a day, in order to go home and come to the youth center. Another challenge, another set of challenges that they're facing is the lack of information. Information is scarce. And even if people might say that now that we have the era of the internet, information is there, information is so much available, but the filters are not always available. And then the information that they would want to get to is not really reaching them. In rural areas in Romania, and most likely not only in Romania, there's a severe lack of leisure time opportunities for youngsters. Opportunities that would be, as I was saying earlier, safe and secure. And one of the things that we have found out with our research that we conducted in November last year is that they feel that they have a weak voice and they're not being part of local decisions and local decision-making processes. In terms of the needs and interests, we don't necessarily call them needs and interests, and we call them the wants and feels. It's about what they want and how they feel about stuff around them. Also, following the research, and this is most recent, that's why I'm quoting this one, the research that we've done in November last year, they want to explore, they want to be with their friends, they want to matter, and they want to be safe. And from this point onwards, it's just a limit of imagination of what they and we can do together in order to explore, in order to support them being with their friends, to help them matter and being safe while doing all these things. I was telling you earlier that one of the main challenges was transportation to and from the youth center. And last year, we found a solution. We got inspired from Scotland a few years back, and last year we made it happen. So we have created the first mobile youth center that is running the hills of Romania. I'm going to invite you again to turn your speakers on and to watch the screen, to watch the video. So what happened was that we have turned a regular cargo van into a full-blown mobile youth center that is able to take youth activities to the most remote cantons and villages where it can actually reach, because not all of them are reachable. But it's the kind of equipment that allows us to do parties, to throw parties, to have cinema nights, to have PlayStation competitions, and to have workshops and seminars in very remote, in very secluded areas that are only accessible by car. And if you are wondering, so you've seen a little bit of the process part. It took us about 4 months to turn the van into a mobile youth center, and thank God everybody was on lockdown, because that's what we did in lockdown. And we did that with the help of local youngsters. And what you've seen there, everything was done with the help of our young volunteers that are working on this project. If you're wondering, where does the van go? We have a video on that as well, just to see how stuff looks like.
I get lost sometimes and I can't seem to find a light between the walls I built for myself right in my mind. And then you came over and you showed me love that I never had seen before. And now, when I got you, it's all gonna be alright.
The videos as well are made by our international volunteers or by our local youngsters. And we do believe in the potential of young people, and we're encouraging them to take responsibility and to share what they can do with the equipment and resources that the youth centers can offer them. And yes, the van, the mobile youth center, is fully independent, energetic. Like it doesn't need to be connected to an energy source, and it also has mobile internet. That would conclude the presentation that we have for this moment. And I was totally ready to take on questions at this point, but I would also like to invite Thomas first to have a presentation, and we can together then answer all the questions that people might have. Thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you, Katya, for taking over.
Thank you, Cosmin. Wow. Impressive experience, and this sounds like a dream, the van that you have, and you're going around the villages to reach those young people. So thank you very much for sharing this inspiring experience, and I hope that people will get inspired and also will find a way to implement this practice in their realities. Just to remind you, you can ask your questions in the questions and answers sessions. If you are watching us live in Facebook, please feel free to write your questions under the live translation. For now, there are around 20 people who are watching us there. So don't be shy, ask questions. More you ask, more you get to know. Especially today, we have very interesting practices that really can be used in everyday youth work and youth activities. Thank you one more time, Cosmin, for your presentation. And now I will pass floor to Thomas McCarthy from Ireland, Dublin. He is a street youth worker, drugs and alcohol outreach worker, who work with young people every day. And so Thomas will share his experience and how do they reach young people, how they work with them on the streets and also in their youth center. I know that you also have a youth center in Dublin and your organization. So Thomas, once you are ready, you can start. Thomas is here. Yes, sorry, Thomas, I couldn't see your video. Now I see you.
Cool, yeah, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
I will switch off my microphone, so the floor is yours, or video is yours.
Yeah. I just want to get this slideshow to play. Thank you, Cosmos. Or Cosmin, sorry, Cosmos, I was going to say. It was great actually listening to you and having a look at what rural youth work looks like. It's it's the absolute opposite of where I work. We a very urban area. So I'll talk a little bit down and say just starting off with introductions. My name is Thomas McCarthy. I suppose my official title is drug and alcohol youth worker. However, I specialise in street work, drug intervention, alcohol intervention, outreach work, skills-based work. So I do a variety of things here in Inchicore in Dublin. The centre. I don't know if I get this to move. But there you go. So where we live, we live in a local, I suppose in European terms, a local municipality area. Like we would call it a local council area. So it's Dublin City Council. And where we're located, I wish I actually had a map. Like Cosmin, we're located just actually right on the edge of Dublin city centre. So we're actually right near the centre of the city. And the area that we work in is high density housing of flat complexes. The area was one of the most disadvantaged areas in Ireland and possibly Europe in the 1980s and 1990s, and was blighted with the heroin epidemic that hit these areas in those times, which cost the lives of probably hundreds of young people. And obviously we're still feeling the consequences of that today. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So the area has lots of blocks of flats, and in about 10 years ago, they decided that they were going to regenerate the whole area. So they're going to knock all the blocks of flats down and rebuild them with really nice homes. However, they knocked pretty much half the blocks down and left half because the economy collapsed. So we ended up with, a big green space in the middle of right out where the flats used to be. And we also have a number of other blocks of flats still beside us. So in the area, we have a combination of gentrification and urbanization. There's some areas now where there used to be working class communities are now getting kind of pushed out, and developers are building really expensive houses and apartments and for high net individuals. But in the area, we have pockets still of extreme disadvantage, like with high levels of unemployment, single parent families, mainly mothers. Chronic drug addiction, generational educational disadvantage, grandparents in some cases rearing grandchildren as the parents are dead. So, as I said earlier on, some of the outcomes of the 1980s, 90s heroin epidemic was we lost a lot of people through drug addiction, and a lot of children ended up with the grandparents, and so we work with kids now that are getting reared by their grandparents, So specialist youth work or street work so my role in general is drug intervention. So that means working with young people that have habitual drug use or are forming addictions. I use a harm reduction methodology, and we try and reduce the harm as much as we can until the young people are probably ready to be in an abstinence-based recovery program, which is very difficult when you're young people because you don't really see the consequences for your drug use until you're much older, So it's a challenge to bring them to that place. So we try and reduce as much harm as we can. As I said, we also do programs like Reduce the Use program, just trying to get young people to reduce their drug use to a manageable level where they're not compromising their mental or emotional health or their physical health. And also, I also do all the drug education work, just as loads of staff coming into the office and young people. So I do a lot of the drug education work here as well. So that means going into schools and also doing work within our centre here, And also my role is also to do a lot of outreach work. So I will be doing a combination of I'll talk about that a little bit later on, street-based outreach work, street work, going in our schools, going into prisons, drug treatment centres and detention centres where young people are at. So responding to the community need. So this is the we have a non-centre based approach and a centre-based approach. So this is some of the issues that we see in our community. So we have a lot of violence going on that will be, young people on young people, sometimes parents on parents, sometimes, drug-related violence. We have a lot of drug dealing in the local area, antisocial behaviour, and criminal gang grooming, which goes on quite a lot as well. So that will be young people getting groomed by criminals really to carry drugs, sell drugs, and asked to take part in, whatever crime that they're up to, We've had numerous shootings in the area where, mainly parents have been shot. We have worked with children that have witnessed their parents being murdered or their parent being murdered in front of them. From shootings and stabbings. Also, racist attacks are quite common in the area. So we work with young people around trying to prevent racism, trying to prevent racist attacks, work with young people that are actually perpetrators and work with young people that are actually victims. Joyriding is another big issue. Like it's mainly stolen motorbikes. As you know, you're driving a motorbike with no helmet at a high speed. It's incredibly dangerous. You can get killed very easily. We 3 young people that we work with crashed a motorbike about 6 months ago and were seriously injured. Luckily, none of them died, but one of them has life-changing injuries as a result of it. Sometimes the area can be a no-go area. It can be dangerous to come here. And also we have transient young people coming in and out of the area that actually don't live here, that will just be migrating between the different local urban areas. And then also we have police harassment of young people that goes on as well. So within this community, there's a high level of policing because there's a high level of crime. However, the knock-on effect of that is sometimes the police are harassing young people that aren't involved in any antisocial behaviour, and are over aggressive with young people. Sometimes they are involved in antisocial behaviour, so that can be an issue as well for us here. So outreach and street work, reaching out. So outreach is an extension really of our centre-based youth work. Our outreach work takes place with workers who are usually based in the centre here, go out on the street with an agenda. So we'll talk about the agenda later on, but we always have an agenda. We don't do it just for the sake of doing it, we advocate, obviously, in our outreach piece, we advocate young people. We might end up in the courts advocating on the young person's behalf, or we might end up in the school advocating on their behalf for a job or whatever it might be, or training centre or whatever. So also we some of our outreach is targeting people for outdoor pursuits. Like Cosmin, we have a van, and it's actually a minibus, and sometimes we just take young people off the corner, just divert them away from hanging around and take them to the mountains, which is luckily enough for us. We are in the city, but we're very close to the Dublin Mountains, which is very rural, so it's great. Also, when you're out in the street, we encourage young people to attend our club. So if you don't see them for a while, we encourage them to come in and see some of the youth workers. And also for staff, it's nice to be visible in the community. People can see us, young people can see us, parents can see us, the other local people can see us, and we're quite visible in the community, all of the youth workers here, not just myself. Also, we do service calls, house calls, school interventions. This is just some of the stuff that we do when we're doing outreach, school interventions, court appearances. We support young people on the courses, referrals. We outreach to prisons. We outreach to, flats and waste grounds. And we also have a canal along the centre. And there's a lot of young people that migrate along the canal. It's kind of like a pathway along the canal, and there's a tram system right beside us there as well. So young people will use the tram quite a lot, So we're talking too fast.
So can you please slow down?
Yeah, so no problem. Do you want me to go through all that again? No, I don't have to. So as you read all that, sorry if I go too fast. You stop me if I am. So a street work model is a non-centre based model of planned and conscious youth work practice, targeting at-risk young people, which takes place on the streets and largely on the young person's own terms. So, when we're on the street, we're always, thinking of youth work and why we're there. And we always have specific young people that we are targeting and that we want to work with or we want to see. I'll talk a little bit about that now in a second. But one of the things that's important to take into consideration within this quote is that it's always on the young person's own terms. We're not in the centre, so there's rules governing the centre. When we're in the centre, but we're on the street, we're on their turf, and it's not in the centre. So it's always kind of on their terms, whether we're able to hang out with them for a while on the corner or not. You know, I've been told to F off numerous times by young people that are around corners because they didn't want that was around, you know, and that's fine. So before we go on the street, we have a session plan. Who are the targeted young people? Who are we going out looking for? Why are we targeting them? What youth worker is leading the session? Have we any other information on them to discuss before we go on the street? Where do we think they're hanging out? So where are they? Are they in the block of flats? Are they down on the canal? Are they, you know, on the tram? Where are they? And then let's look at check. We have a backpack that we bring a first aid kit and a few bits and pieces out with us just in case. So, you know, street work safety is paramount. So, you know, this is, we take this very seriously. We always work with two workers. We have a backpack, obviously, with a first aid kit. We have ID badges, charge phones, and also we have codes for dangerous situations. So, you know, if we're in a corner and stuff is getting out of hand, it's like, the code is I'm starving, let's get something to eat. And that's the code for let's move on, which we don't really use that often, but occasionally we do, you know. So this is the categories. We kind of, I stole this idea from a Finnish organisation when I was doing some training with them a couple of years ago, and they had a really nice categories of how they looked at their young people that they're working with. So the first category, obviously I've added a couple myself, but the first category was nice to see. So the nice, so my role is drug intervention. That's my primary role, and also you know, diversionary activities and intervening where crime is a problem, or gangs or criminal grooming. So I don't work with every young person, and there's a lot of young people that I would say hello to, and I just move on, you know, because they're not in my target range. But all the other staff, they would be in their target range, so they spend a bit more time connecting with the young people. So the young people, so the nice to see young people are young people that are like mainstream, stable family homes, no obvious major behavioural issues in the groups, in their group or in the community, attending groups and drop-ins here in the centre, or they're too young to attend, but we're starting to develop relationships, you know, before they start to attend. We are not allowed to work with young people under 10 years of age based on our funding. So, you know, we do obviously meet kids on the street that are under 10. So we have a chat with them on the street, but we're not allowed to actually work with them in the centre. So young people that are important to see. So this is where it goes into my category of young people. So it's young people that have been identified by the service or referral because they're having difficulties at school or home or on the street. Possible addiction in the family home or other family problems. Identified by the service as being vulnerable to criminal gang grooming. Possibility of experimentation with alcohol or drugs, or referred from other local services. Attendance at the police diversion program. So locally here, we also have a police diversion program where if young people are cautioned by the police, and they can attend that program. So sometimes we collaborate and cooperate with young people that they might be working with. Except for they have a specific criteria. If a young person goes over a certain threshold, then it's harder for them to work with them. But we don't have any criteria. We work with any young people. I'll talk a little bit later on about just there's a little bit of a nuance in that as well. So also important to see is young people that hang around on the street with other young people who are drug dealing. So it's important to see them. Young people that hang around with much older young people. You know, if you're 14, you hang around with 17-year-old. Like, you know, especially if the 17-year-olds are up to stuff. We be conscious to work with those young people to prevent them from following down the road. Also, like, you know, we don't see a young person for a while. We go looking for them. You know, that's one of the pieces of work that we're very proud of, and we never give up on the young people. We go looking for them if we can't find them, if we don't see them. And also, you know, young people that are suspected of being sexually promiscuous. You know, we want to prevent teenage pregnancies and the spread of STIs, and also young people being targeted, particularly vulnerable young women that are targeted by young males. So need to see group. So the need to see group is I suppose the main work that I would do. So it's young people that are involved in street aid and gang grooming. Some young people that are experimenting or significant substance use already, involved in antisocial behaviour before the courts, dropped out or are dropping out of school, obvious addictions in the family home, siblings and older brothers or sisters involved in criminality, siblings with addiction, and siblings in prison, and significant risk-taking behaviour. So we would very much be looking at those young people as targets for the work that I do. Now, most of the youth workers here would do bits and pieces of this, and I would collaborate with other youth workers here on most of this. Obviously, I can't work on my own, but this is my primary role as a worker So floaters, these are difficult, you know. So we call them floaters, but they're basically transient young people. Is it kind of a slang term for people moving around? Is a floater in Ireland, you know, Dublin, you know, they call them floaters. We're going for the float, you know. So many of the same issues but they're really difficult to work with because, like, you know, what we find, because we've been working in this area for so long, in our catchment area, we know most of the young people before they're 10, because obviously we're on the street a lot of the time, and what I said earlier on is that we get to know them before they're 10. So we have years of a relationship, you know, with them, you know. So when we go on the street, it's always cool. Like, it's always like, oh, what's the story? Tell me how's things. However, when we have young people that migrate into the area that we don't know, we have no relationship, it's more difficult to work with them. So we try, but sometimes it's a real challenge. So are there young people past youth work intervention? So this is a question that, you know, sometimes, oh God, what happened there? Oh no, I have to go back. Hold on a second. Just bear with me a second. I'm moving this little box around with everybody in it. So are there young people past youth work intervention? So this is kind of a question that we ask ourselves, you know, more than we have an answer for, you know. So when is it time that it becomes too dangerous for us to work with a young person? You know, do we continue working with them when we know they have access to firearms? We know that they have access to serious amounts of drugs. We know that they're involved in high-level criminality and gang activity. So that's the question we ask ourselves. So young people do we work with young people who have threatened their staff? You know, because it has happened in the past. Staff members have been threatened by young people, you know. Young people who have demonstrated they're too dangerous to engage. You know, obviously, like, there's, you know, some young people don't have any empathy, you know, and don't have, you know, they're borderline psychopathic at times, you know. So do we continue to work with these, you know, or are we not able to work with them anymore? You know, so they're the questions that we kind of ask ourselves, and we generally deal with everything case by case basis, you know. Young people who are addicted to drugs and who need specific professional help, though obligation to be fair. Obviously, like, the first contact with a professional worker is generally with me when there's a young person with drugs. If their drug use has gotten really, really out of hand really, really quickly, you know, they need to be in a centre to come off the drugs, to stabilise at least. So we don't have a drug treatment centre here. So we're always trying to refer our young people, and tends to happen because what happens around here is young people will start smoking weed, then they'll move on to like tablets, benzodiazepines, coke, you know, not that much heroin anymore, not with young people anyway. And before you know it, they're racking up charges, you know, they're before the courts, they're getting into accidents, they're getting into fights, they're getting damaged, you know. So it's very much a difficult one, and generally what we do is refer, you know. So the last point in this slide is we try and keep a tentative relationship, you know, with all young people. If we can move a young person out of criminal gang activity, then we'll support them to move out of criminal gang activity. If we can't, we can't, and then they're the problem of the justice system. I think, is that it? Is that it for me? Hold on. Oh yeah, sorry, that's not it for me. Oh no, is it? Hold on a second. Don't know where I am. Oh yeah, here I am. So why is street work important? Obviously, we said earlier on, it's a youth worker presence in the community. It's meeting young people, you know, where they're at in their space, not our space. It's keeping the connection with young people outside of the group. So, you know, you haven't seen a young person for a while, you know, you'll catch them on the street. Even if you see them for a while, you'll catch them on the street, because young people around this area are always on the corners or in the flat stairwells or in the blocks. It's for targeting young people who we need to see. So very much like, even though they might be coming to groups, we still need to see them as much as we can. So, you know, it's always going out and saying hello and seeing them and see what's up, see if there's anything we can support them with. Continue to build on relationships or start new ones. So, you know, we're on the street, we're always kind of having the crack, having the banter with the young people, building relationships. You know, sometimes we do a lot street activities. We take footballs out, you know, games, activities out in the street. Sometimes we just organise, you know, sports out there, you know, for young people to participate in, and they look forward to doing that with us, you know. It's a way of delivering first-hand information to young people. So, you know, young people might need something, you know, might need it. And also we do a lot of, you know, we give out some drug information to young people, sexual health information as well. It's a community safety initiative. So we may be able to provide practical or medical assistance if something happens in the area, which can happen occasionally. It also breaks down barriers between youth work and formal spaces and informal spaces. So this is a very important point. There's always barriers, and what I found over the years working in centres is that if the young people don't come in, they don't get seen, and there's not really anybody following up with them, in my experience. So we try to make sure that it's a seamless crossover between the street and the centre, so there's no barriers, that the young people will see the youth workers on the street, and they will approach the youth workers, will approach the young people on the street, and then the young people will see the youth workers in the centre. There's just no difference. How we are with young people on the street is a little bit different, because obviously we don't have the rules of the centre, so it's a little bit different, it's a little bit freer, so on the street as well, like I said, it's a place to do activities with young people, street games, graffiti on boards, on walls, when we get sanctioned off the local council, sports, football, tugs of war, fixing bikes. Sometimes we bring our bike mechanical tools with us and fix young people's bikes, or else we bring them into the centre here. We won't meet them on the street. We bring them into the centre because we have a fully functioning bike workshop program here that's very effective. So finding young people who are disengaged and bring them back into the youth service. So that's what I said earlier on. It's just like, we don't see a young person, we go looking for them. And then also so that young people don't fall through the cracks. So we're very much focused on that. We don't want any young people falling through the cracks. So we're out looking for them as much as we can. The main challenges, some young people don't want to speak to you. They might tell you to F off. That's the way it is, So we try our best to, bridge that gap but if a young person doesn't want to speak to you, that's fine too. That's up to them. So young people may be involved in a crime while you're present, i.e. dealing drugs.
Thomas, can you please slow down again?
Oh, sorry.
For it. Thank you.
Yeah, young people don't want to speak to you. That's I said that. I think people might got that point. Young people may be involved in a crime, while you're on the street. So that's something that you have to consider. Is there something you have to do about that? So also, all the challenges, remembering it's their space and not being over eager to challenge them or voice them. What tends to happen sometimes, you might have youth workers going on the street and they behave the same way as they behave in the centre. So everything the young person said that they feel is wrong, they challenge, and then sometimes it's not the right place to do that. The right place to challenge young people is when that young person is open to getting challenged. But sometimes they're not, sometimes you're just another parent, that's another adult that's giving out to them and they don't want to hear it. So sometimes it can be another chance, sometimes it's dangerous. Young people do have weapons. We've taken knives, bars, things like that off young people. I actually bought a knife off a young person, one knife for €5 because he wouldn't give it to me, so I paid him for it so that he didn't hurt anybody, which is kind of going against it. I'm not going against anything, but it's kind of not standard youth work practice. But I just felt that it was the right thing to do at the time because I didn't want the young person walking around with a knife. And then the last point I make is breaking cycles of offending. Like we have young people that will go into detention, they'll come back out, they'll do okay for a little while, and then they'll start offending again, and they'll go back in, and the cycle continues and continues and continues, and then continues into an adulthood, and then continues with their children after that. So, one of the main challenges here is to try and break that cycle, because we recognise that we can't turn every young person around, but the ones that we think we can make a difference with, we do our best with. So that's it from my presentation. As I said, it's a very urban area. Everything is, there's not much green space here. There's not much open space. And one of the things I try to do, and it's been a particular challenge with COVID, because we're not really allowed to transport people in our vehicles, is we're very close to the sea here in Dublin and very close to the mountains. So we try and bring our young people out of the urban area as much as we can and into nature as much as we can. We also have a trailer and a load of mountain bikes that we fundraise for, and we take them mountain biking as well when we can. So it's just to get them out of the area. Young people are very different when you take them out of this area, when you have them up. So that's it. That's my spiel for today. Thanks for listening to me. And sorry if I was talking really fast, because that's how we speak in Dublin. Apologies if you didn't catch everything I said.
Okay. Thank you very much, Thomas. Really impressive work that you're doing. And it's really hard work, and you should be very brave, I think, to and to be very motivated to go every day and to reach those young people and to try to bring them to youth work and to activities and to. So thank you very much for this presentation. And yeah, we will, because this webinar is recorded, so we will have a recording placed in our MOOC and we will put some subtitles. And yes, so thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you very much, Cosmin, for your presentations. Really interesting, really very practical and very inspiring. So now it's time to see what our graphic recorder did. So we can see the resume of two presentations visually. Olajo, when you're ready. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Looks impressive. So here we already can see the main points of the presentations. And once the graphic recording will be finished as well, we will publish it in our MOOC. And also it will become the part of the MOOC recording, I guess, at the end. So we will see the final result. So main points are here. So you could remember what our two presenters were talking about and was sharing with us. And now I pass floor to Derek, or I will ask Derek, what are the questions? So time to ask questions. We have quite a number, I can see. So Derek.
Yes, there are a few questions. And I must say, all of them are actually very different. So it was not really possible to kind of accumulate them together, put them together. So I'll go through some of them. Some of them probably will require a little bit of explanation. Some are quite short. The first question is more about how do you create an inclusive and diverse place like the youth center? So the question actually says, what are some practices taking place to be in the youth center to be inclusive and a diverse place, specifically for the youth work or youth organization in Romania, but other people can answer as well. So Thomas, you can also contribute to that. So how do you guarantee that the youth center promotes inclusion and it's a diverse place?
I get it that somebody was watching the social reality in Romania a few years ago with a referendum. We do have some procedures in place. And we are not aiming at being a diverse place. We are aiming at being an inclusive and safe space. And while doing this, or in order to do this, as I was saying before, we do have trained adults that are working there, and we have zero tolerance for intolerance. We are creating experiences because we are using non-formal learning a lot, and we're creating experiences for youngsters in order to break stereotypes and to break prejudice. And this is, in our opinion, the thing that works at this point in order to have an inclusive place for all young people in the community. In a community where you get to see random people walking with axes around, because this is how it goes in that community. So it's not all sugar and milk everywhere. And it's our challenge to have an inclusive place, to have a space and secure space for a safe and secure space for young people. And in the meantime, to keep it in a digestible format for the local community.
Okay, thank you. Thomas, would you like?
I'm hoping that covers the question.
Well, that's your answer, and I think it was it's valid as it is. Thomas, would you like to contribute to it?
Yeah, I would like to say that we're incredibly inclusive here, which we are. However, there is racism in our community. There's homophobia and sexism, big time. Hyper masculine males, and it's a huge problem for us. We don't tolerate it at all, ever. We're intolerant to intolerance as well. But like what Cosmin said, we have LGBTQI. I don't know what the rest is now. Groups here that run here all the time, and we have young people from numerous different. Like Dublin is very diverse, so we have young people from all over the place. Polish kids as well, so it's and Romania. I worked with a lot of Romanian kids actually, and the last place I worked, so we're very diverse. So we try to be inclusive as possible, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge when there's an attitude in the community, and particularly when you have people that live in poverty. It's easy to point your finger at somebody else. It's easy to scapegoat somebody else when really the people that are responsible are the people that develop the policies, which is the government at a national level and international level. So yeah, we try our best to be as inclusive as we can, but we're definitely not perfect, and we're definitely not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question, maybe I connect it with another one because there is a similarity. We have very different people in our MOOC. Some of them are beginner youth workers, some of them are a little bit more experienced, but we have also people who would like to start youth work. That's why they came to the course on Essential of Youth Work. So the question is, how do you choose what type of youth worker you'd like to be? Would you like to be a street youth worker, or would you like to work in a youth center, or would you like to do something else? And maybe I connected with another question: is how do you actually become a street youth worker or street worker?
Yeah.
Sorry,
maybe
Darek,
Thomas,
Darek, if I can jump in, there is actually a question on Facebook as well, on the live, asking. It was on Thomas, but maybe it can be expressed. Do you have a mandate from the to do this work? Yeah. So is there a mandate for the municipality or some other institution to do this kind of work? So we have 3 questions in one, I think.
I don't understand.
So how do you choose? I think the first one is the most. How do you choose what type of youth worker you would like to be?
I actually think it chooses you. I don't think you choose. I think your personality will determine your personality, and your life experience will determine what type of youth worker you are, in my opinion. I was like one of those young people on the corner when I was a teenager. So it gave me a unique insight into how they are and into their lifestyle. So obviously with, years of education on top of that as a youth worker and experience, it makes you very effective in what you do. So that's why I do it. And that's why it's probably picked me rather than I picked it. To be honest with you, I can't see myself sitting around playing board games. I see myself on the street. I'm on the street as much as I can, or do skills-based work. As I said, as a workshop, bike mechanics, out the street work, all that sort of stuff. So that's the type of person and worker I am. To be honest with you, it's difficult. It's very, very challenging. You're working with a very challenging environment, very challenging young people. I've been threatened. I've been, lots of stuff over the years. So it's a very challenging environment. So it takes a specific person that has a high tolerance for that to be able to do it. That's the truth, and also takes a person that has the high tolerance for it and also has a lot of support behind them. Because it's a demanding job and you need as much support as you can get, and you have to be open to taking that support, and also realise that you're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. The second part of the question, I don't quite understand what the mandate means. I have a mandate from my organisation to do the work that I do. I operate, I'll be honest, in a lot of grey areas. When you're talking about policy frameworks around youth work and how you address it, how you work with young people. So but I have a mandate from my organisation to be as effective as I can, without put myself at risk or other people at risk. So that's the mandate that I have.
Cosmin, how did you become a youth worker?
Slowly. And not all of a sudden at the end of university. And I would also like to address this thing that you don't become a youth worker, you find it within you. And as to what type of a youth worker you will be, first find out what kind of a youth worker you don't want to be. And it's the same thing that that I'm basically recommending to people that want to know what they want, what they're going to do with their lives. Just find out what you don't want to do with your life. And this is the general practice that we have in our youth center. It's a lot of talking to young people, a lot of talking to all sorts of young people having a lot of challenges and having a lot of very different and diverse personalities and characters, and on a very short fuse sometimes. So it's super important that we treat people with respect, and we treat people with a respect that at some point we would like to get, and that we would like to see in our community. I cannot really answer the other two questions because we are not doing street work. We don't really have streets. We have pathways and roads. And indeed, in order to be able to be successful with a mobile youth van, you have to be a bit more flexible. Just jumping from the youth center to the mobile youth van doesn't really work. Like you need to prepare yourself a little bit before that.
Thank you. I think this question appeared when Cosmin, you were talking about the youth center that is very much based on what young people want, that you do the survey, that you do the research, you ask young people. But the question is, what if the young people are coming to the youth center and they want to participate or do the activity or learn something that you don't have skills at? So what do you do then?
Thank God I'm not the only one working there. Just a very brief answer to this. We're just going to contact somebody that has the skills for what young people would like to try out. And if they do not have any previous experience with non-formal learning or youth work, we are going to provide the people, the experts, with the necessary information to be able to organize and facilitate such an activity. In terms of asking young people, we are, yes, indeed, always asking young people. We are actually we are in a process right now of asking young people from 5 countries what would their ideal youth center be, which is, again, another project that we are doing in order to have our own organizational standards for open youth work. And it's an Erasmus Plus project coordinated by Rotterdam in Germany.
Thank you. The next question is to Thomas. There's always this question of boundaries of youth work, where youth work starts, when youth work ends, and something else begins, especially when it comes to health issues and the issues that you were talking about. So in your context, what's the difference between youth work and social work?
Well, in Ireland, social work is very specific around child protection. So it's, when a young person becomes into a child protection concern, we are legally mandated to report that to social work. So that's the difference between us. If a young person, if there's a child welfare concern, it generally gets managed in the community. We have a thing called a MEHL process, which is it's like MEHL is an Irish word for bringing in the hay or bringing the village together to help each other. And so we have a MEHL process when it's a child welfare issue. If it's a child protection, and I suppose the floor of intervention of the social worker is very high. So it would really be sexual abuse or systematic neglect or, things like that before they would intervene, or if a child needs to put into secure care for their own welfare. So it's a very high threshold, and most of the other stuff gets dealt with in the community. So, boundaries are, boundaries are different where you are sometimes, like there's stuff that gets said and said on the street that you have to roll with. as I said earlier on, I work in grey areas. Sometimes you have to roll with some stuff, because if you were pulling young person constantly, or you were ringing the parents, or you were doing this or that, you wouldn't have a young person that would talk to you. You just wouldn't talk to you. So you would make yourself irrelevant at what you're doing if you had really, really tight boundaries. That's not to say I don't have personal boundaries. I do, but you have to be a little bit more open to what young people are saying and doing. You know, that's as good as I can give you.
Okay. The next question is actually entering the issue that we are going to discuss in the next module of our book, but maybe just a little snapshot, Cosmin, from you. Youth work is about working with young people, but what are other daily tasks of a youth worker in the youth center?
Oh, Jesus.
And please do not scare people.
Administration hell.
Administration hell is one from Thomas. Cosmin, from you?
In the past 2 years, I've been working less and less directly with young people, and more with local administration, with politicians, trying to put youth work and young people on the public agenda in the local communities. And I've been also cutting and splitting a lot of wood because, as I've been telling you earlier, we have long winters, and so. Just like you said, Darek, in order not to scare people, daily activities vary from taking care of the flowers in the garden to making project and financial reports, not just for funding institution, but also for the local administrations or the financial administrations. Translating a lot, because we are what other people would call an international youth center. We are working a lot with internationals. And this is also one of the tricks that we were using in order to make the place attractive for young people. Counseling, but not necessarily counseling, more like coaching or mediating conflicts and all sorts of things. And from time to time, I'm also fixing our organization's cars whenever it's within my range of knowledge.
Okay, so the very big range of competences, no? It's Thomas, yeah?
Yeah, look, I'll just give you a flavour of my day. So this morning at 11, we had a team meeting. Obviously, it's just a general, I suppose the running of the centre and the different things that we have to do. And then we spent an hour talking about one particular peer group of young people, about how we're going to approach working with them, because they're very, 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 very challenging. And then I spent the rest of the afternoon before this meeting. I had a one-to-one with a young person came in for an hour, and then I also we're developing a accredited bike mechanics program for young people that are dropped out of school, so they'll get them qualifications. So I spent my afternoon setting that up, getting all the parts, components, managing the grant. So when I say, and then also we have a recording system, an electronic recording system where we record everything that we do with young people. So that's what, when I say administration hell, I mean it. So that's how youth work is in Ireland. It's very much the funder is asking for more information all the time, which gives you less time to work with young people.
Thank you. Well, this is just the taste, because we are going, as I said, we are going to explore it in the next module on what actually youth workers do. Of course, they work with young people, but there's other things that they have to do for sure. Yes. Thomas, another question for you.
Yes.
I will just read it, and then you react to the way you understand. Hey, what's the crack? What is a helpful approach in your case to bring the young people always back, especially knowing with what they are emotionally dealing with?
Hell yeah! What's the crack? What's it? Sorry, say that again. So, what's a useful way of bringing young people back?
To bring young people back, especially knowing what they are dealing with emotionally. Well,
the pandemic has been devastating for young people. They've been taken, from their group. Like, obviously, young people come to groups here regularly, and young people they haven't been at school properly, so they've got out of a routine. They got out of habits. They haven't got that support that they generally would get. We went a lot of time online using, tools like I was playing PlayStation for a few months with young people on the headsets, so I could still connect with them. So it's been very, very challenging. What we've noticed since we came back to work is a huge amount of increased antisocial behaviour, angry young men running around the place, and also a huge amount of anxiety within the young people that have came back. So what we're doing at the moment is we're really just restoring relationships that have kind of taken a break and not a break. We've tried our best to link in with young people as we could, but it's been terrible for young people. Have to be honest, So we're picking up the pieces of that now, and we're trying to support them as best we can emotionally, And also we provide counselling here. We refer young people for counselling and things like that. Where we feel there's a need for it. If we can't manage something ourselves, we will refer or we will use other services locally, which we're blessed to have a lot of services where we are because we're in the city centre. So yeah, and then the question earlier on was, what skills do you need to have and stuff like we've multiple skills across our team, multiple different competencies within the staff team, but we don't have the skills. We outsource them as much as we can. One of the things that's not too bad at the moment here in Ireland is funding. We've got a good bit of funding at the moment, which wasn't always the case.
Okay, the next question is to both of you, I guess. It's about security. What security measures do you take to ensure that youth workers, adults, trainers are safe, both on the mobile trips, if there is a mobile trips done, and in the streets, and even the security of young people who engage during, for example, outreach from, let's say, homophobic attacks or from whatever. So it's about how do you ensure safety and security. You were talking a lot about, Cosmin, about this, that this is your actually aim, to create a safe space. So how do you ensure it's a safe space?
With education and procedures. And these will be different from youth center to youth center or from context to context. And as Thomas was saying earlier about having a meeting to discuss a specific situation, when we are having events or trips with young people, we are also having meetings and discussing procedures, possible scenarios, and outcomes of the scenarios. It's not that all the time we get to discuss all the possible scenarios, and it's most of the time that stuff happens that we are not really imagining beforehand. But a cool head and lots of patience and respect for other people will always get you home safe. In terms of the security of youngsters, it depends from event to event, from activity to activity, where the activity is taking place, and so on. If the activity is in the center, we always have at least 2 trained adults. Let's call them youth workers at this point so that everybody knows what we're talking about. And when it comes to trips, we have this thing that we lovely call in Romania SSM, which is the basic training for security and protection with regard to the activity and with possible risks that might arise. And this is something that we're becoming famous or infamous for with young people, because we're always talking about this before a specific activity, so that we minimize the chances of anyone getting hurt. And with the secure place, I would just want to point back to the moment in which I was saying that we have 0 tolerance for intolerance.
Okay.
Thomas, you have the word.
Yeah. We're a very professional organisation. We have policies and procedures that govern everything that we do. There's we spend a few days training on a thing called child protection training, which we do, and that covers everything from young people being at risk of being on trips, and also young people might make a disclosure to you of something that might happen to them. So we're very well trained around that. And obviously, if we're doing an activity, we risk assess more or less everything that we do. However, we can't always guarantee, because you just never know what's going to happen. in our area, so there is an element of risk for youth workers being on the street. Like I was out during the night and a young fella hit a golf ball at me. Like he just was messing. Like he hit a golf ball full speed down. We were like a AstroTurf space in the front of our centre, and it's like a laneway. So if you hit a ball down there, it's bouncing off all the walls, and it could. So he just thought it was funny to hit a golf ball down into the space, But if it had hit you, like it could have took someone's eye out, But like this type of stuff you can't govern for. It's just stuff that happens. At times there's stolen cars and stolen motorbikes outside, and there's fights, and you never know what's going to happen. So sometimes the job has risk, but we work all the time to keep our young people at little risk as possible. When they're in this building, in particular, every young person in this building is safe. And we don't tolerate anything like Cosmin said, we don't tolerate any sort of intolerance at all, or bullying or intimidation or anything like that, So we work hard to make sure that the place is safe and open for everybody.
Thank you. Thomas, I think one more question here is, I think it's specifically to you, how to figure out where young people hang out?
They're very visible. The area that we work in there's a couple of blocks of flats, and there's the canal, and then there's the tram system, and so generally young people hang out about 50 yards away from the youth centre on the corner generally, so we don't have to go far to find them, or else they're in the blocks of the flats, like in the stairwells, where you can kind of hide a bit, so yeah, and as I said earlier, like it's the young people don't really last long outside on the main street because the police will come and move them on. That's another issue that we have. Obviously, young people don't have spaces that they can go to. This was particularly enhanced during the pandemic because the police would come and move them on. They didn't have the youth centre to go to. They didn't have anywhere else to go to, and they get moved from here, there, everywhere. So that's it.
Okay, I'm going to read the next question, but I'm not sure I want you to answer to this question because it's it can be either too big or I think it's too big to be answered in the time that we have. The question is about what to talk about with youngsters and how to organize the outdoor activities. I think this we can organize webinar on because I don't know if you want to comment on it but I just wanted to read it because somebody posted it, so it seems it's important for the person. So.
To be honest with you, 90% of my time talking with young people is talking nonsense. That's the truth. Like, not 90%. Like we work with young people in this area. Like it's a lot of banter. A lot of it is it's meaningless. Just talk, and then once you get past all that, then it's like, how's things? What's going on? And generally the best question you can ever ask young people is, what's going on? How are you? Rather than, you should do this, or you should do that, or you should do this, or you work where a young person is at, so you ask them always what's going on. That's the start of the conversation always. You don't go in your head, what am I going to talk to this young person about? Well, let's do something specific that's been going on that you need to address with the young person. But like in general, it's like how I am. I don't know how people speak around. First thing out of my mouth, what's the story, bro? How are you? That's it, So you don't have to overthink it. How to organise activities, they're always based on what young people's interests are. That's what you base your activities on, not what your interests are or what's easy. It's always based on what the young people's interests are.
Yeah, so the question was more specifically about outdoor activities, so it's maybe for you, Cosmin.
Yeah, we do. We've I said earlier, we've a fleet of mountain bikes for outdoor activities. That's one thing. We do all sorts of sports out in the green space outside, and we also do a lot of residential work. When there wasn't the pandemic, we would take young people all over Ireland to do different activities, whatever the activities might be, whether it's in the forest or whether it's on the coast or whatever. And actually, a couple of years ago, we brought 8 young people to Morocco to build a bike workshop in the mountains with some Berber kids. 8 young people from Inchicore here, and 8 young people that 2 years before that we had to bring them home from a residential because they were so difficult. 2 years later, because of constant work with them, we were able to bring them to Morocco, and it was an amazing experience for everybody that attended. So you're only limited by your imagination of what you can do with young people. That's the truth. Like, you can do whatever whatever you feel, they feel, or whatever you want to develop together. But you always have to have in your head what's in their best interest.
Yeah, Cosmin?
Well, the question was, how do you organize outdoor activities, right?
Yes, and how do you talk to young people?
Let's address the first one. So how do you organize outdoor activities? It's not like I'm going to start blabbing about how we organize the Olympics Youth Festival. Every year is just activities that young people want to be part of. And how do you get to know which activities are those ones that young people want to be part of? It's pretty easy. You just ask them. And how to organize them, as Thomas was saying, is imagination and a little bit of project management. In terms of how do you approach how do you talk to young people, not how do you approach young people.
What do you talk about? I mean, this is let me look at the question again.
I have again that type of comment of what they wouldn't like to do. I can tell you what they wouldn't like to hear. They don't want to be patronized, and they don't really like being lectured. So besides that, in terms of advice, start watching teenage shows and start playing computer games. And then from that point on, I think you're going to figure it out.
Learn to play FIFA.
Yeah, totally.
And Fortnite.
Yeah.
And you're the best mates of every young person that you meet.
Okay, cool. I have one last question here on the question and answer table, and it's to both of you. How do you see? It's actually coming towards the end of our MOOC because we are going to tackle it as well. But why not to start now and have your voices as well? Because somebody is writing that he or she asked these questions out of curiosity. How does the future of youth work look like? Like, what about your personal approach and personal wishes as well? In brackets, street youth work as well. So what's the future?
I'll go first for this one.
Whoever.
I'm apprehensive, to be honest. What appears to be happening is an element of social control taking over how we operate, meaning that the state is starting to decide on what they're willing to fund, and depending on the government that's in power. So if it's a very right-wing government, it's a very socially controlled environment. So that means more policing, more diversion programs, more criminal justice type interventions. If it's a more left-wing government, it's kind of more working where young people are at. So, but in Ireland, we've kind of a middle ground, I think, with policy. At the moment, we're fairly free to work how we best feel we should work. However, the Department of Justice is funding a lot of projects now, who have a very much a justice mindset when they're working with young people, or when they're funding services to work with young people. So there's an ideological difference, and so that would be one of my concerns going forward. Is how we approach youth work. So I'm of the liberation approach to youth work. Around liberating young people rather than controlling them and making them find their own way in life with the support, rather than dictating to them what they should be and putting them into boxes of where they should be and what they shouldn't do. So that's me. On a personal level, I'm probably coming to the end of the road as a street worker in the next couple of years, I think. I'm getting a bit older for it and a bit crankier. So maybe I'll have to move over and let some younger youth workers take up the rounds and maybe do something not so challenging. So
thank you.
Maybe we'll see.
So, Thomas, I have a very short question for you. For how long now have you had youth work in Ireland?
Oh God, youth work established in Ireland back in the early 1900s, because it came from I suppose Republican revolutionary ideas. It initially started in Christian ideas, but then it was taken over by Republican ideas as well. But it was really more about getting young people involved and ideologically changing them around. It was to do with oppression and to do with occupation by the British and all sorts. It's a long, complicated story, you know. But professionally, like having the first professional qualification or training in youth work was in the 1980s. So we were going a good while, like, and we've developed a good while, so originated in between revolutionary ideas and Christian values, and it's moved into more professionalization over the last few years.
That's cool. And I'm going to use your answer to support my statement on how do I see the future of youth work in Romania. I see a future for youth work in Romania, as we are definitely not experiencing the same situation and long-standing history of youth work, recognized youth work, and community-backed youth work, even if you've had policies or not, or we've had policies or not. In my opinion, it's the community backing that is so important in order to be able to reach young people and to deliver this social value that youth work actually has, and that is not fully recognized in our reality here in Romania. So I do see a future for youth work. How is it going to look like? I think I'm just going to have to join your ranks and be patient in order to see it. One of the actually really cool things is that youth work is getting more attention right now on the public agenda, and that is an amazing thing. Personally, I think I'm going to follow the same footsteps of Thomas, and at some point after I become a grumpy old man, I'm just going to step over and allow somebody else to do stuff.
You may never become a grumpy man. Maybe older, yes, but maybe not grumpy, and then maybe not. And you'll have to think what to do with this. Okay, thank you, Thomas and Cosmin. I don't know, Snezhana, is there anything else from Facebook?
Not from Facebook. There was a question actually in the chat, so not in the Q&A, but chat. And I will just read it and we see if there is I think we are running over, but I think that's a sign that we had a super interesting inputs in the question. So I will just throw it at you, and then especially for Cosmin, but maybe Thomas, you also have an opinion on that. Is Cosmin that you mentioned earlier and several times that you have zero tolerance for intolerance in the work that you do. So how tolerance is then developed in young participants? Quite a clever question, I think.
Briefly, tolerance is a set of values, and building values and building systems of values with general people, not only young people, is not the easiest thing to do. Providing support and experiences while working and talking to young people, and providing those kind of experiences that are going to reveal what intolerance can actually lead to. This is the way that we're doing things. Mm-hmm. Very, very brief.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Thomas, would you want to add something to this?
Yeah, look, come here. It's just for me. It's just ongoing conversations all of the time, and I wear my values on my sleeve, I do, and I try to role model behaviour for young people as much as I can. I think I'm a role model in the community for what is possible for young people in this area, because we have a lack of role models, unfortunately. So I don't any conversation, even when I'm on street, I let most stuff roll. But when I'm even on street, if there's homophobic, racist stuff, I'll get into a conversation about it. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it a little bit. Not that you always make a difference with it, but let's have the conversation. Don't let it just stay in the dark. I'm very open to have a conversation and being very non-judgmental with the young people, because a lot of intolerance is based in ignorance rather than anything else. It's just that they don't know, or they have a prejudice inherited. No young person is born with prejudice. So it's about having a conversation. So where did you inherit this prejudice from? Where did it come from? And putting names on stuff with young people. I put names on it. Mm. That's kind of how I am anyway. How we are.
Thank you so much, and that's actually a super good intro for the next week's webinar, because we will deal with the values and ethics in youth work. next week. So it's Wednesday next week. It's the same time, and it's really interesting that your answers and the last question actually led us to it. We will confirm the speakers to our MOOC participants very soon, but also on the Facebook page. And if you two have some time also next week, you can join us. I'm pretty sure that you could offer additional views to that. So that will be from me, and I think it's time to close slowly. But I think we invite Olaja to show us the final piece of art, I think.
I'm an artist too, so I'm fascinated watching Olala's work. It's incredible.
Any second now. As you can see, Olaja, we are completely speechless. And I think it looks really, really good. I think it captures really the main thing we talked about, although we had so many questions and so many different answers. And I think it's great that we have them captured. So I don't think it can give the full picture to people who couldn't actually see the webinar, but I think it gives a really good summary. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much for your inputs. Thank you very much for participation. I think today's webinar shows us all the diversity of the youth work, of where does it happen for young people we are working with, what are the types of youth work. And I hope it gives inspiration, even though some participants the road got scary by all the competences that youth workers should do. But for this also we have upcoming models to explore it more and to learn more about it. So we hope that by the end of the course, everybody will be sure what they want to do, how they want to do, and will be ready to practice. Thank you very much. I would like to thank very much our guests. Thank you very much, Cosmin. Thank you very much, Thomas. I think it was really enriching and really full of practice advices and experiences webinar. So we had a lot of questions, and this is also the sign. It was really interesting. It was really a pleasure to hear you, and then thanks to all the participants for your for your attendance, and thank you very much for your interesting questions. So thank you very much. The information, it was a question about the information about Thomas and Cosmin. It will be published. It's actually already we have some in the announcement for this webinar, but also we will publish the recording of this webinar and all the information. And Cosmin and Thomas, if you would like to share your contact details, and in case people would like to contact you, so maybe then you can send it to me, and we will also share them under the webinar. Yes.
Twitter or Instagram for us, Core Youth Service.
Okay.
Ask anything you want.
I have it now. So I will publish your Instagram account. So people can follow work you do. And Cosmin as well, you can share your youth center coordinates so that everybody can see, follow. And yes, just to remind you, we're still on Module 3. If you didn't finish Modules 1 and 2, don't worry, you still have time to do it. Also, if you have some friends or colleagues who are interested, MOOC is still open for the subscription, and people still can start the MOOC. So thank you very much. Thank you to our team. Thank you very much, Olaja, for your amazing recording. Thank you, Snezhana, Darek, and Marietta for facilitating this webinar today. So thank you, everybody. Then it's maybe time to finish and to go back to everyday work or everyday rest.
Back to work for me.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye, everybody. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.